Hi everyone, and welcome to Simply Fishing. I'm your host, Bob Mehsikomer. This week I'll introduce you to lure designer Tom Seward as he and I pursue smallmouth bass out of Witch Bay Camp on Lake of the Woods. This portion of Simply Fishing is brought to you by Shimano Rods and Reels, where precision and proficiency unite, and by Warden's Lures, makers of the Timber Tiger crankbait.
There's one.
Got her?
Yeah.
Oh, you look at nice fish.
Yeah, it's a nice one, I believe.
Nice fish.
These are following the lures. That's a habit of those.
Yeah, every now and then you'll feel them actually push it.
Yeah, it's a habit of a smallmouth. Now, for some reason, this one isn't hooked. This is a nice fish, but it isn't as strong as the last one. It's hard to figure out how one can pull so hard compared to another one.
They all pull fine by me.
There's a difference here. Now he's a pretty one. Keep control here. Ouch. Come on, smallmouth. Now it's cutting loose. Last minute blast.
Got your hands full, Tom?
Yeah. Well, he waited. I want to get. These are the most dangerous fish with those little mouths to get a hold of. They just keep kicking and kicking, and that hook sticking. There it is. Look at the body. That's what I look for, those lines right there. Beautiful lines. You know that the eggs are in there. Oops. Don't want to hurt the...
You're throwing a perch pattern?
Yeah. With those smelt, I wish I had brought some of the silvery ones. I really didn't think of their silvery fish would be close to shore in this lake, but it just shows how much. That's a very beautiful fish. You can see the egg sacs starting there. The chunky round footballs. That's what we call them in the Columbia River.
I got one of your chunky footballs right here.
Oh, great.
Oh.
Everybody wants a football. That's a beautiful football. Look at the body.
Oh, this is so much fun. You know what you don't realize too is the fish like this, for instance.
That one really took it.
Yeah, you got her. It's all right, we'll get her out.
That's called Clearwater Flash, that pattern you have.
Clearwater Flash?
Yeah, it has a foil plate, iridescent foil. It's called two-sided foil. It's inside the lure. It flashes on each side. The paint job is real light and transparent over that, so the foil has a flash like a bait fish. Even to a human eye, that looks very much like a smelt-like fish or a shad in the water. Even to the human eye. It's a real good Clearwater color.
Really nice.
Flashes like one. It doesn't look like one, but it flashes just like one.
What people don't realize too is this fish right here is probably 15 years old. At least 12 to 15.
And what was the maximum now? 18, 20?
What, smallmouth?
Yeah, in this
they're over
lake.
20 years old. That one came right on top of the rocks there, Tom. Right on top of the rocks. I threw up in the inside. It was just coming over the edge. I could feel the crankbait just kind of rolling its way through the rocks like you were talking about earlier.
Hoping not to get hung on there by driving the lure hard down on the top of it.
Oh, I'll tell you, we're getting some wind.
Jeez, I thought I had the top of the reef.
You got her, huh?
It's right in the cup there, Bob. There's a big cup between the two dark brown rocks. That's exactly where this one was. And not real deep, neither. Let's see what we got here.
Oh, another nice
Another
fish.
chunky body, wide body.
777, huh?
It's a good name for him. channel 777 down there. Try to get you in the boat. Go. Attempt to lift this one in quickly and gently. I don't like these hooks all the way across the mouth when I reach in there. Now I can get in the mouth. Come on, baby. Hurt him.
Have you ever thrown a bait any more productive than a timber tiger?
And that's as good as it gets without trying to over-promote the thing. They have great vibration, and they have a real sharp, steep dive, which we need here, and they roll over the rocks. No lure snag-proof, but these do a real good job, and they were designed for that purpose. This is a DC-5, which means depth control 5 feet. DC-8, 8 foot, and that's on 10-pound line.
And that's what I'm running, is a DC-8.
Yeah, you're running the 8, and I'm running the little smaller 5, which actually does do 5 feet. It'll top that a little bit, but most of the time I'm probably running about 4.5. You need a maximum length cast to get maximum rated depth and the right kind of line too. Are you using 10-pound line, Bob?
Yeah, I got 10 on my crankbait rod.
In the Northwest, where I'm from, and even up here, we're to the east of me quite a bit, of course, about 1,500 miles or more. 10 pounds the world standard line for cranking. It seems to do everything just right. You can get a big fish in. You've got a little abrasion resistance in the rocks, and you do have to keep retying. But it allows your lure to get the correct depth. You can go to 8, but on these rocks, unless I was trying to get the deepest dive off the ends of the reef, I would stay away from it here. And the 8 will definitely put your lure down at least another foot, which adds to your depth. And I'm over Bob, so I'm going to let him come through.
You're all right. I was just coming out of that trough in there. See that trough?
Yeah. Sometimes we can't see each other's transparent line when we're looking down at our lure, and then we cast.
Right in that trough, right in there. That's where we want to focus right now, right in there. And there's big boulders coming out of there.
I see them coming up. There should be something off of those.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I'd have to go ahead of you there to do it.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm casting at the last line of brown I see here. That's what my Polaroids pick up. And not to get... And I did. I drove it right in there. I drove it right into that rock.
This is the bait fish, folks. I'm going to pick that fish up for you. We got Tom's bait out of the rocks. We got up on top of these fish, which is not where I want to be. But I'm going to show you the bait fish. I don't even know what it is.
Smelt?
I don't know, but this is what our fish are actually eating on in here. You can see this one's still alive. Smallmouth or something banged it down there and wounded it pretty good. But this is what these fish are eating on. Let me move this boat and we're going to hit this rock. But you see what I was talking about, Tom, about how shiny these fish were?
Yeah, they look like a smelt to me. They're not being this far up north, I can't identify them.
Well, folks, as you can see, Simply Fishing guest Tom Seward knows his stuff when it comes to crankbaits, and even a bit about smallmouth. This portion of Simply Fishing has been brought to you by Ranger Boats, still building legends one at a time, and by the Canadian Connection, ensuring your travels throughout Canada are pleasant ones. We at Simply Fishing would like to take this opportunity to commend Muskies Incorporated for their efforts regarding our muskie fisheries. Their goals are without question favorable to the future of muskie fishing. To resource information regarding the Muskies Inc. chapter nearest you, simply call 888-710-8286. They're always looking for a few great people.
Yeah, we got a lot of rock out here. A lot of rock here.
Jeez.
Get her?
Didn't get very far. Wow, is that vicious? It must be a pike or something. It's pretty... The thing just barely moved. Is it a pike? I can't tell what it is. Really? I can't even tell what it is. It's powerful, I'll tell you that.
That's on that red one, huh?
Yeah. It hardly moved over that little rock in sight. No, stopped. Yeah.
good fish.
Yeah, these are the strongest ones yet. They just refuse to come in. Tremendous power. Look at that red eye. Love it. Jeez. Look at it. Look at it. It's like a bulldog. I can't believe it. This. Never give up. Look at the power. I nearly swallowed the lure. I'm gonna have to be careful. I don't become a smallmouth victim. That is a nice one. Let's see if I can. Even the jaws are thick on this one.
That's a gorgeous, gorgeous smallmouth.
Beautiful. Yeah, the prettiest one I've got today.
Oh, yes.
Beautiful. They're so pretty. A beautiful red eye. I picked that up. And they're thick this way, too. It's one of the strongest ones. Very strong fish. Goodbye.
Look at the rock out here.
Yeah, I see several.
There's a lot of rock out here. Further out than what you would think. Oh, look at that.
Follow?
Yeah, he came up and swiped at it right there. After he missed it, though, he didn't come back. There we go. Couple of fish on this point.
Yeah, it's been a good spot. Good wind, good rocks. I have to go to a deeper lure here to get them.
I switched out to that perch 5. We stuck a lot of fish off this thing in short order. We'll just keep looking for this kind of scenario, huh?
Right. Wind and extended rocks from visible bank with rock. The right size rock.
Yeah, that is the critical shoreline right there. I mean, you can see the difference, the variances between, oh, you know, I don't know, 1.5 ton rock down to size of baseballs maybe.
Windy shorelines are considered among the best producers of smallmouth during nearly the entire season. In our case, we were developing a pattern of smallies holding on shorelines that transitioned into small points, which were exposed to wind. You should be aware, we were in a solid warming trend, and the winds were actually moving surface temperatures that consisted of 50 to 53 degree water, perfect for this early season period of smallmouth movement. However, a few days, possibly a week later, these same smallies will make their way into their spawning areas, but for now, they're here and they're feeding.
Go. Little guy. Man.
Just remember, when the wind's at your back, they stack. This portion of Simply Fishing is brought to you by Toughline XP from 15 to 200 pound test, and by Video Ray, making a difference in your underwater visibility.
Tom, you folks over at Timber Tiger over at Warden's have done an awful lot to bring the Timber Tiger to where it is. Versatility is what a fisherman looks for in being able to control depth, and you guys have pretty much done that. Can you talk just a little bit about some of the things that are going into the facets that are going into a Timber Tiger crankbait?
Well, the lure group is based on depth control, which is the most important thing in crankbait usage. This is the little DC1, and as the name would imply, it runs 1 foot deep on 10-pound, 12-pound line. It has a very small lip, and that lip is rounded. That reduces the depth and also the angle of the lip. It has a chunky little body to give it upward buoyance, and these small fins you see on the side, these control the action, or what often is called the wobble of the lure. Now, the belly hook is tucked very tightly into the lure, so it runs up underneath the lure and has room to pivot away from snags. So there's our 1 footer, and of course the goal is to keep the lure 1 foot or less most of the time when you're fishing over submerged, rotting fall leaves, scum algae, things like that. You don't want to pick that up on the hook of the lure. That's why you want to run 1 foot. You can run right where a spinnerbait runs, but have the action of a crankbait.
Well, you guys have got a lure that's designed for 1 foot, 3 foot, 5 foot, 8 foot, 13 foot, 16 foot, correct?
We have those depths covered. The next in the series is the DC3, and it runs, just as the name implies, DC, depth control, 3 feet. You can get a little bit deeper, or you can make it run a little bit shallower by holding your rod up or changing your line diameter. Now, the DC3 is very good for running through timber, fallen trees, and rocks. There's 2 splayed ends on the lip, you can see easily, and a ridge in the center of the lip. They help roll the lure over things. The fins on the side are like a cam, and they help bounce the hook points. I'll demonstrate. It comes in, hits on the ridge, destabilizes, rolls sideways. As you can see, the hook points are turned up right at that 1 second, then it straightens out again and dives back down again. This has very tight action. It has what we call a tight tuck belly hook position. This, I know you can't see it on camera so well, but the lip is actually rounded to reduce the diving angle. It's a lure that you don't really want to go very deep. It has a specific function. When you can see the bottom generally, when you're fishing, this is the lure to use, or the DC1, or even our DC2. We have a 2 also.
Let's say I want to achieve an extra foot out of any lure group. About how much further do I have to cast to get that foot?
In that case, assuming the wind will let you do that, you try to add 10 foot to your standard cast, like your 50 or 60. If you can squeak another 10 foot, you're going to squeak out about another foot out of that lure. Ultimately, the lures are limited in depth by the surface area of their lips, so you can't exceed that, but you will get that extra depth. I get a lot of questions. In fact, just before I came here, I got sent, how do you know what a fish takes? How do you think of those things? And the reason it's not simple, but it is simple in a way, I study them. I study them all the time, and I'm aware of the basics of crankbaits, which are depth control, action, and then forward speed control. That's how you get the basics together in crankbaits. And I know the actions that they take, and of course I experiment with the lures and I experiment with prototypes. For a lure like this, to start its life, the body would be made of wood, the fins be made of plastic, and this would be made of Lexan polycarbonate, and then all glued, molded, put together, and tested and tested. Then the mold maker would copy that with a digitizing system and make a hollow body. So they're very complicated to get one to the final stage. And just because they wiggle doesn't really mean a lot. You could probably, in an afternoon, a week's time, I could show you how to make one wiggle. It's more than that. You want a vibration out of that lure that compels fish to take it.
You really can feel it in your rod tip. I mean, these things will double that rod tip over.
They're vicious. I remember telling Al Linder once at a show, I said, Al, viciousness, that's what makes a crankbait. I personally like lures that have a hard driving action so I can force the fish to come after them and take them. They're exciting to the fish because they represent vulnerability and something that's fleeing at high speed. Anything whacking into the bottom, a fish knows that there's a problem with that instinctively and wants to take advantage of it because predators look for distressed prey before healthy prey.
Well, let's go put it in front of some of those vicious smallmouth.
Hey,
Sounds
folks,
good to me,
as
Bob.
you can see, Tom and I were on some fish. You want to try smallies like this? Try Witch Bay Camp on Lake of the Woods. Get a hold of the folks at Witch Bay at 1-807-468-5262 or contact them on the web at www.witchbay.com. We'd like to say thanks to Steve and Gail and all the folks at Witch Bay Camp.
Hold on, baby. A good commanding lead on this thing. You could have got that thing out of your mouth if your life would have depended on it. This guy just hammered it. Fat belly. Fat belly. This one here.
Next week, we'll be off to Reindeer Lake, where my son Jason and I will challenge pike with River Run's new manta. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our sponsors for allowing us to present Simply Fishing. Canadian Connection, travel where we do throughout Canada. Motor Guide Trolling Motors, Motor Guide Never Stop. Ranger Boats, still